My name is Ras Tariq, aka Baba Tariq Oduno, aka Baba Oduno. I want to thank Ras Gracie, the family, the Lion's Voice, and it is time appropriately for the Lions to tell our story, where our noble ancestors will be honored. And we know that we have not been a negligible factor in the history of our story in the world. Thank you very much. There is no culture without agriculture. And without agriculture, I don't even want to think about it. Peace.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice. Well, millions of Africans were stolen and taken in bondage and suffered terrible acts of terrorism. Well, millions of Africans were stolen and taken in bondage and suffered terrible acts of terrorism. Well, it's best that we live out best, living in this life full of stress. Can't you see the government couldn't care less? Work every day, can't see no progress. So it's best that we live out the best, living in this life full of stress. Can't you see the government couldn't care less? Work every day, can't see no progress. See them slave for paychecks. Work every day, grow old from the stress that pays. They're getting cold in the west. Remember we were bought and sold for gold down in the west. I check in my history and I see the sweat from our back to them country. Black people hungry still for the money. Them a robber, them a steal. Funny cause the slave got the face on the dollar bill for real. Y'all can act like it ain't a big deal, but I got to stand for the black. Color of my skin could have never changed that. No, the slave master thought y'all never talk back, but I must be back. I see them on the war with Iraq, and my people them dying from the ears and crack. They lack basic things that they need, so they taste the Benjamins. Living life second class citizens. Time to look within. Time for Ali Selassie, I King of Kings, and Ethiopia there from the beginning. Well, ancient memories as it was, miss the soul of the people. So it's best that we live out the West.
What do you have to tell the people about Ras Tafari?
Light to the world. The King of Kings and the conquering line of the tribe of Judah. I left himself. Where's rightful ruler? Hey yo! Hey, hail them high, hail the Black King on the 23rd of July. So tell them guy who praise God up in the sky, it's a lie. The Almighty living on your life. From ancient time them a try. Them Romans know them just open them suit and ties. Criminals ain't got no alibi, they stole my people. Then them comes without them genocide.
Are you talking about slavery?
Them couldn't kill the lion we come conquer Judah tribe. Go through tribulation, I strive, see sufferation, I still rise. That's why we tell them in America, live Rastafari in every ghetto area. We come if you tell them in a Toronto, straight at it. Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Chasmach Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist. And right now, I am the host of the Lion's Voice. Welcome to the Lion Voice Network and welcome to Lion Talk Live. This is our program where we're bringing Rastafari and Pan-Africans from the front line of the battlefield. We are in a global war family, World War III unfolding, exciting times upon the earth. And, you know, what we are trying to do is really highlight the work that has to happen, forward movements. But while that is happening, we want to bring you the stories from the lions that are doing the actual work. So big up all of the people we have. Ras Firstman just had his interview on the channel. Check out Ras Firstman interview, powerful interview. We talk about the sackcloth, chad. For people who don't know, man used to chad in a sackcloth, burlap, potato bag. For those in America, man used to make that in a clothes and wear that, and you know what I mean. So we talk about that. So big up Firstman. As you can see, today is a day of relative sadness in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. We lost one of our great archive, one of our great elders, Baba Aduno Tariq. I was blessed to have been able to interview him. I put the interview forward on the channel so that the ancestors' voice can echo, you know, through sound. Sad day for the community, but we give thanks that we were able to capture and that he's able to articulate his own story. He talks about his childhood growing up in the Deep South, talks about fighting racists and racism, and is chatting to the Marcus Garvey movement. So make sure you check out all of the content that we have here on the Lion Voice Network. We're building a premier Rastafari multimedia production company family in front of your eyes, and the item are going to help I to do it. I'm talking to the 40 item watching right now, you know, and the hundreds more that will watch as we upload and have it in the archive. So this is something that's happening in real time. What's the alternative? Are we going to just depend on third parties to tell our story? Is that viable? No, we're not depend on that. So without further, I'm long-winded. The item knows say I'm long-winded, so just bear with I, because this is a joy. I'm bringing an elder that I really have the utmost respect, you know, someone who is known as a frontline warrior. When I Google the elder name, is newspaper articles, is all kind of things that coming up, you know. When I went to the Rastafari Roots Fest, you know, elder promotion, you know, one of the Nyahbinghi elders that really deal with the economic aspect of the Chad. He's also based in Westmoreland. People know Westmoreland is the place with the best ganja, Orange Hill, all these world famous spots. He's also a founding member of the Westmoreland Ganja and Hemp Growers Association. So many works, you know, former chair of the Nyahbinghi Administrative Council. I went to the ISIS in July, I think it was 2021, and elder when me know for some time, I see him go up on the ketty and trust me, him give Vatican 2 slap where, you know, no Francis supposed to limp. So we give thanks. So we are able to bring to the item none other than great Ras I-Yah V. I-Yah V. Give thanks with the eye.
Yes, greetings, the Jasna, greetings. And
Yes.
give thanks for having I on the program, and greetings as usual to the viewers and listeners. In the name of our Majesty Haile Selassie, in the name of our Empress Wazira Menen, in the name of all our ancestors and all our freedom fighters, past and present, who have been fighting for equal rights and justice, you know. So, blessed Rastafari.
Give thanks, give thanks. And just so we get a context, because we have so many topics here to touch tonight. Take us into the journey coming into Rastafari. When was the born? And then take us through, you know, where, which parish, and then take us through, you know, were you born into a Rastafari family? What was that journey like?
Give thanks to the questions. I was born on the plantation.
Okay.
When I say plantation, I mean a sugar plantation, which was the norm of John Doe at the time in the Caribbean and a whole. So I was born on an estate called Froome. And then Froome now as an estate would have different farms.
Okay.
So the farm that I was born on was Miller's Field Farm. Froome Estate in the parish of Westmoreland.
Okay.
Simon was born in 1950.
Okay.
22nd of December, just a little before, I don't know if they ever hear them talk about Hurricane Charlie.
Yes, yes.
But listening to him and people, they had to take I through water, deep water that reached my grandfather up to the neck and took I into a place called Pantap, part of the Miller's Field farm, where I was housed. There were 7 barracks because in those times you had what would be called workers' barracks, but it was really slave barracks, you know.
Okay.
Because I came and saw my mother, my father, grandmother, grandfather, uncle, everybody for Iman was working on the plantation, was working in the cane field, you know.
Wow.
So that was my experience growing up. That is what I saw all around me, and that is where a certain level of consciousness, to the honest, started at the age of about 6 as to why. Why was it that, you know, it was my people, black people, Indian people, working the cane field, and then you would see Bakramas and his horse, you know, white man, you know, riding, inspecting. So I was, you know, questioning.
So you were still living the slave condition, although it's not called slavery. You grew up on a plantation with a white overseer, you know, so to speak, and you say you saw your whole family working on the same plantation, right? So wow.
So I tell a man, the judge man, that I don't only read about slavery. I saw slavery right around I. Right around I, because, you know, that's where I grew up, you know, not only my mother and my father, but the community and the communities around I. It was all about, you know, working on the plantation, you know. So luckily, you know, during those times, you had common entrance, and at the age of 10 plus, I got a half scholarship, because in those times you could get a half scholarship that would pay you to go to you would have to pay to go to a high school, or you get a full scholarship that, you know, the government, you go to school free and the government would assist you, you know. So at 10 plus, I got a half scholarship. My family was not in the position to send my man go to high school. And in those days, you know, there were very few high schools. Like in Westmoreland, there was only Manning as a high school. They had Froome as a technical school. So if you feel...
So the Froome school was owned by the plantation?
Yeah, the Froome school was a part of... The whole thing was controlled by plantation, in the sense that even though Froome was the estate, but because the institution was located exactly in the geographical area now that would be known as Froome, even though the estate is Froome, you had a direct district called Froome.
Okay.
Right.
District.
So that institution was located in that little district called Froome. Then, you know, you would have Green Jill George's playing Sutherland Amara and so on. So at the age of 11 plus now, I took the scholarship again, and I got a full scholarship that enabled Iman to go to Manning's, you know, Manning's High School, which is one of those prestigious high schools in those days, you know, because coming from grassroots background, you definitely would have to be bright academically to get a common entrance to go to a school. Now we have about 7, 8 high schools in Westmoreland, but in comparison to like a 1966 one and so on, it was just Manning as a high school, you know. So, I mean, science was my thing. Science, I loved things. I was doing chemistry, physics, bio in school, English, and so on, you know. So I left school before my time because, you know, I was very rebellious. you know, because injustice is a thing that I hate from I was a youth. Any form of injustice, you know, I hate. And certain things I wouldn't even bother going to you the way that I displayed my hate for injustice. But that cause I to leave school. I wasn't expelled, you know, but I just left. I just decided that I wasn't going to take this thing anymore, you know. So at 17 plus, yeah, I applied for, I got a job before I was 17, but, you know, it was too young for I man to teach, even though I had a qualification, but I was too young because I wasn't 17 yet, I was still 16 plus, you know.
Okay.
So, then at 17 and about 17, I did an exam. I applied for a job at what is known as Serious Sugar Research Institute. At that time, it was called Sugar Research Department, which was the most advanced lab in the Latin American and Caribbean countries, you know. So luckily or whatever, you know, there were about 36 of us that did what was known as an intelligence test, and somehow or the other I came first.
Okay.
Didn't get the job because there was someone in the oral part of the questions who would have gotten first, but he already had a job, you know, so, and got from Kingston, and that place was in Mandeville. So eventually I got the job, and I was working in the, what you call the soil physics department, you know, analyzing soil and the, you know, ability of the soil to keep
Was this
water.
for the same plantation or this was different?
No, that was in Mandeville now, at this lab.
Okay.
At this lab, at the Sugar Research Department, which I said was the most advanced lab in the Caribbean and Latin American country.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where I started out working. And, you know, again, what I saw as injustice, you know, and I am a one, I don't keep my voice, I don't keep silent when I see injustice. So, you know, I never to get on well with, I remember a brother who was a agricultural engineer. There was a white man from Australia. He was a soil physicist. But that was the field I was in and so on. So then, but growing up, going high school, I was saying Ras Tafari, but I didn't know what I was saying.
Okay.
You know? But like at 16 plus, because I left high school 16 plus. So in and around 16 and liquor, you know. I remember when I'm in school, we used to burn herb. I was burning herb from I was 7, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because like I say, it's the working class community that I grew up in, and, you know, was exposed to herb smoking from I was a youth, you know. But there was this man beside next door to me. I remember I told you we had 7 barracks.
Yes.
So there was this, and he used to sell herb, you know. So his nephews now would be there for some time and then gone out now. His nephews selling these herb, and we were just about 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
You know? So I couldn't even build a spliff. I had to build a funnel and pack the herb in it, you know. And so, you know, yeah, we started smoking herb 7 and so on. So even high school, I was smoking herb too and so on, you know.
Yes.
So eventually, you know, yeah, like I was saying, Ras Tafari, we started reading, because then this whole Walter Rodney issue, when Walter Rodney was turned back, you know, from Jamaica.
So what year are we talking about, just so we can set some context?
Well, Walter Rodney is a Guyanese born, you know,
Yes.
Pan-Africanist, and he was a lecturer at the University at the West Indies and the Mona campus.
Yes.
And you know, he used to associate himself with Ras Tafari to the point that he wrote a book called Grounding with My Brethren. And then he went to a Black Writers Conference. In those times, you must know, Jamaica, a lot of things were restricted in terms of reading. You were restricted. You couldn't have anything on Cuba or socialism and communism and nothing. You had to just, in other words, you were like a horse with a blind two sides. So you only head one way, going one direction, and it's the way you were taught both in church and in school, So anyway, Rodney went to this Black Writers Conference, and when he was coming back, he was stopped at the Jamaican Palisades Airport. His wife and two children were sent to him, and whatever arrangement was to be made between the government and him, but he was sent to Guyana. So that caused a big uproar, big demonstration in Kingston. 27 JOS bus got burned, and the rebellion was led by UWI students, university students. At that time, to be honest, there was a lot of radical activities and thinking taking place, not only Jamaica and the Caribbean, but all over. There was the rise of Black power in the US. Caribbean youth and Black people were demonstrating in Canada and so on. So a lot of activism and the whole Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad and all of these. John F. Kennedy was assassinated in '63, but there was this radical thinking all over the world, all over, and so yeah, the buses were burnt and so on. So I'm saying in those days now, we as youths now, we were thinking radically too,
Yes, yes.
And how what I could do to support those demonstrations, So anyway, I'm still living in Mandeville, and I left, and then I got an office now in Clarendon. I was sharing this office with an agricultural engineer, but I was doing research in agricultural engineering also,
Okay.
So because this is what, even though it wasn't from an institutional point of view, but the job I was doing, with the research, as I hear the place was called Sugar Research Department. So it was all about doing research and how to improve the sugar production and by so doing the improving soil quality and so on,
Okay.
Right. So anyway, yeah, I left, had my office now in Clarendon, but still.
Did you have locks at this time, or you still?
No. But I've never trimmed.
Okay, so you had iceps. You had iceps.
Yeah, had small icep and high soul head that, sometimes when you pat it down in the morning, it low, and when sun start, take it and dry it out. Now it start fluff out, So, so anyway, I remember one time, one of those engineers at time and him well trimmed, so I said, congratulations, I see you have a nice haircut. So why don't you emulate my example and follow me? I said, no, I've tried that already, but it won't work, So anyway, working there, and, I was very serious because I remember me and the agricultural engineer used to have clashes, and though he was Black and this white man, the person in charge of the department, was a white man from Australia, but he sort of was reading between the line what was happening between, I and this Black agricultural engineer. And then when I time he came down, we had some serious argument. And I remember in the room, he looked at me and said, my first name, registered name is Veral, So he said, Veral, have you increased your pace of smoking ganja recently? So I had that cap on my finger, and I was pinning it and looking both at the agricultural engineer and the director for the department, Look at them, and eventually he would start reading I'm on to, that I was thinking seriously. So he said, I can assure you whatever you say in this room will not leave out of it. So I look at both of them again, and I said, no, I would say I've maintained a constant pace. Yeah, because, I'm on that. When I dodge like, when I'm on herb,
Yeah.
And look on the other one, and look on the agricultural engineer and say, he's cool now, ain't he? Because him know it was one time and then questioning I man because then this white man clash up up in a mandable already to the point that him tell I said, don't come back. That was a Friday. Him tell I don't come back the Monday. And I point to the file in cabinet with the contract and said, no, that is not how this thing works, And I just point to the cabinet and he knew immediately what I was saying to him. So he said, all right, I'll give you your month's notice. But because of my ability in doing the work, I have done things that the judgment, I see people, the director from the chemistry department, from the pathology department, from my department, 3 days in my office working on a project that they couldn't do. And on the 3rd day when they were leaving, this director, this man from Australia, come to I and said, Gerald, see what I can do about it. And without a boast, the judgment, less than 15 minutes, I had everything going.
Wow.
So when he came back in the morning and sight, in said to I, verily, you have all the ability that one could ever work, one could ever want, but just realize society won't accept you as you are. When I just left university, I used to keep my hair long, my beard tall. I used to say, why cut it? God grows it. But then I realized, well, if you want to get somewhere, you've got to live society way. And I just look upon him in the judgment and say, not I, Mr. Kelly. Not I. And him try to get I back into the research department and, bring I back in a mandable. And he said, no. So he said, where are we? I said, I'm going to leave you, So 69, I left.
Okay.
And I left. But by that time now, even long before I leave, I was taking my Bible and, information, reading, So things were sort of merged, like I say, I haven't trimmed since that time,
Yes.
I never put a comb in my man here, nor scissors in my man here from them time there,
Was there a trot into the Nyahbinghi at that time?
No, but listen this now.
Okay.
When after I leave that job now and came back to Westmoreland to spend 2 weeks, and then now because there were jobs waiting for I, man, because people from even the sugar estate who knew because I was doing research on all the 14 sugar plantation that existed in the island at the time.
Okay.
Analyzing soil from all of them,
Yes.
So then I left and I came to Westmoreland for about 2 weeks. And in coming here, I realized that there were no young people in Ras Tafari.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, hardly anybody knew Ras Tafari was all about. In reality, I myself didn't know exactly what it was all about either. But I was searching deep and I was reading and, going into the Bible and so on, But one thing that I was seriously against was, one, I had no intention, because I had said that by the time I was 20, I was not supposed to be working for anybody. And that I wouldn't take bullshit from anybody, irrespective of what the consequences would be. That is I, from youth. I don't take stupidness, A lot of confrontation between him and police, even in high school, coming into the community, going on as if, them can treat people anyhow. And then no, because I wasn't going to school doing civics, no constitutional rights and so on and so on. So it was always confrontation between them and them when they come into the community trying to disrespect youth, So that was I. So anyway, I came to Frome now and got a job at Frome now, at the Frome factory.
Okay.
In the survey department, And while being there now, still haven't trimmed, never trimmed. But again, this big soul head,
Yeah, so when you say soul head, you mean Afro. For those who
big
know.
Afro, but it's
and
big.
This is 1969, so it's the height of the Black Power,
Black Power,
all of that in America, the soul music.
Yes. And
Cook, all them man, the music.
Yeah, man, and Nina Simone did sing a song to be young, gifted, and black,
Yes.
There was a lot, like I said, there was a lot of black activism.
Vibration.
Taking place all over the world. So anyway, I came to this place and from working in the survey department, because the job that I was doing, only 4 of us in the island knew about it. Only 4, you know? And that was, my job was to, part of land leveling, which was to create constant slopes, so that what is known as the tractavator, the thing that, the crane that would load the sugar, the sugar cane onto the what was carrying it, you know. So you had to structure, you had to cut and fill and then thing like the structure constant slopes, you know.
Okay.
So because of my knowledge in that field, I was well welcome. And then maths is my subject, mathematics is my good subject, and I realized that, it's a simple mathematical problem coming from like electrical department, agricultural department, coming to the survey department. None of these people, not even who work in the survey department, can work it out. Simple ratio questions, and them things that were just butter to eye, and them things that now make I start realize, but wait, how come these type of people working in this institution, agricultural department, electrical department, but they don't know mathematics? So I start realize more and more now, say, some of them is by family name, and some of them, just succumb to society and the wishes of society, So then, one at a time now, there was an Nyahbinghi taking place in Hanover, which is next door parish to Westmoreland.
Yes.
So I left and went there, but I had to pass through where my father come from, And I remember stopping at my grandfather's home, and my step-grandmother was there and said, "Well, when you go up to the dinghy, don't eat from them, because they will turn you in a Rasta." So I said to her, "But I'm already Rasta, Yeah, so we went up there, and like I tell you the judge now. That was 1970 January. It was the celebration of the Ethiopian Christmas.
Okay, from them time there.
Yeah, and I can tell I can look at it as if it was yesterday.
Okay.
And what I saw as a youth, no, it was astonishing, The drum beat, the feeling, the police coming and had to turn back and leave, and the rain and the sun and everything happening in just one day, because I was supposed to be at work, and I said, no, I'm going to go a dinghy, And so the other morning now, when I went to work, the person in charge of the department, no, this man don't know maths, nothing at all, because I test them and then test I and so he said twice, I want to talk to I, because no, I saw a dismissal letter. So he said, he want to talk to I. I said, I want to talk to you too. So we sit down, so he said to I, there's a rumor going around that you're smoking ganja. So I lift up my hand and say, Herb. And say yes. So I say, yeah, I smoke herb. I don't deny smoking herb. But have you ever seen wherein I have ever acted differently from a normal person that you would say herb have such an effect upon I? And say, no. I say, have you ever disapproved of my behavior? And say, no. I say, my work? And say, you're a man of ability and quite an amount of experience in the field of work that we desire from you. But like I have said, and I put up my hand again and said, herb. And say, yes. So then I asked if I used to smoke herb at Sugar Research Department. I say, yeah. And say, and they knew, I said, up to the director knew that. I said, but how you know that smoking herb didn't help me to didn't enhance my ability to do my work? The reason until them say, so where are we now, girl? I said, where we were. He said, what do you mean? I said, I'm not working back to Froome. No, he said to me, if they were to give me a chance, would I stop smoking herbs? So I said, no. So he said, so where are we? I said, where we were. He said, meaning? I said, meaning that I'm not going to work back with you. And so it was from 1970, about January. I have never worked for an individual again, Jujajma.
Wow.
Until this day, I've never worked, you know.
Give
I
time.
left and, you know, mother, my mom naturally was terribly upset because, you know,
Of course.
I am the only youth in the community that got a common entrance in my age group to go to high school, you know.
Yes.
And to see now that, you know, it's Rasta, you know, Rasta, and, you know, the stigma that was attached to Rastafari at the time, you know, and we're seeing I as a Manning graduate and so much was expected of I, you know, and becoming Rastafari. So I you know, it was natural for my mommy to be upset, you know.
Yes.
So, you know, she was vexed because and so on and so on. I could have been easy to consider that I was considered the brightest youth in my community academically, you know.
Okay.
So that was everybody, not just my
If
mom.
they felt like you were throwing away a bright future, you're throwing away their future because you could have get them out of their circumstance. They're looking forward to the eye to take care of them, and you turn dirty Rasta. That's
Exactly
yes.
that was it, you know.
Wow.
So anyway, there were some union activities. There was a half-white youth that he is one of those who led the demonstration when they turned back Rodney, 1968. So he was now teaching at Manning, but he was keeping his beard and keeping his hair tall, you know.
Yes.
And there was a next brother now, he was a top, I don't know if it's called, but air condition expert, you know. And so the three of us got together somehow or the other, you know. And, you know, we started to do like a printing, a trade union activity. At the same time, Brother Jardy was still working with our company.
Yes.
Rajic was still with Manning, but I was the only one now who was not out of work, you know, who was not working, you know. So we got together and, you know, we started printing things and union activities and so on and so on and so on, you know. But then it was Rastafari that was really in I, you know. And eventually I decided that, you know, I'm going to go hills.
Okay.
And then that is where now I leave from off the flat and go into a place called Jerusalem Mountain.
Wow.
And
This is Westmoreland.
Yes, still in Westmoreland. We went to the
Yes.
hills and we built our building, the Jasmine, out of wood, whisk, and thatch.
Wow.
We didn't have any nail. But by the time also we started to wear crocus bag, the same thing that they would
Okay.
have called burlap, but not in any neck fan, you know, just cut bag and wrap round and barefoot now and stop using money and stop traveling on vehicles and all of those things, you know. Because, yeah, we know all of these things was contributing to polluting the earth. So we were looking at things not just from a black liberation point of view, but from an environmental point of view, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Even yeah.
No, I was gonna say I was saying because First Man also tried the sackcloth that I want to do a documentary on the sackcloth journey, because what year was this when I tried the sackcloth?
That was about 1973.
1973. So you see, it come through phases, and Ras Iris, you know, show I that he tried it within the sackcloth in Warwick Hill in the 50s, you know.
Yeah.
So it show you say this was almost like a rite of passage. You
Yes,
know?
it was a rejection of the
Yes.
system.
Yes.
Outright rejection, because at the time now they wanted to not just partially free yourself from the system, but you want to cut off. Just want to cut off and to have nothing to do with the system. So, but that was also a voluntary move, because it was not economic situation that pushed us to that point that we had to wear crocus bag. It was sending a message to the system that here we are going to go to the lowest of the lowest to be ionized cells. So What else can you do to I and I now?
Wow.
To break our mind or to make us into what you would want I and I to be. The only thing you can do is kill I and I, but you can't bow I and I. You can't make I and I do anything that I and I don't want to do.
Serious.
That was the stand at the moment.
So,
And this sackcloth thing is what a lot of Rastafari, especially in the elders, you know, like how the Virgin was telling I there in the 50s, you know, you just want cut off. And a lot of these Rastafari youth now, not to divert from the issue, they don't experience these things.
no.
They have never seen these things. They don't think of ever doing these things because there's so much material things being, you know, around them and every, you know. So, but in those days, we had to, in the first place, remember there was a time when if you were caught with a seed or a leaf of ganja, of herb, it was mandatory that you go to prison.
Wow.
Mandatory. The judge had no discretionary powers, and there being a liar would overstand, you know?
Yes, I.
If having one conviction of possession and you were caught with one plant, it was mandatory that you go to prison for 5 years.
Wow. What year was that?
That was between 1963 to 1972.
And I want to paint a picture for the Lion Pride and the people who are watching. 11 of us here. Hundreds more will watch in the days coming. Ras I-Yah V trotted up into the mountains, you know, and this is something that, you know, I think is very unique to the Caribbean, where we have Rastafari brethren and sisters will literally trot up to the mountain, reject, and because Jamaica is such a fruitful place, you know, you find all of the fruit trees and these things, and you're living off the land. Talk to us about the Jerusalem settings. What you know? How did they
Well, it's like they are saying something that they have lived, but that is exactly what it was, you know. For example, when we went into the hills, especially this place in Jerusalem Mountain, you had a lot of what them call old ground, old cultivation. So you could go in there and you see banana. I mean, nobody not responsible for it anymore.
Yes.
You could cut banana. There was what them call old yam, right? In the hill, that's a big yam. And you had the old Bakramasa estate that would have coconut trees on it. And you walk and you find your coconut, you know, your bark, your coconut, and you had jelly that was even available. You had river that you would go to. That was what a setting like Jerusalem Mountain was.
Yes.
But then now,
because I don't think people who haven't been to Jamaica realize that Jamaica is a literal paradise too. You know.
Yes.
It really is a literal paradise, especially Westmoreland, beautiful settings and the fruit trees and the food, and you're able to live without spending money because you're walking through the land and you're harvesting. So I don't think people really understand where Rastafari got through for cleanse himself for that that system, you know what I mean? And we have to talk about it more because these are things from a fantasy book, Ras I-Yah V. You take it like it's just something where you live through, but if you know that's not in people's even their concept to completely go off the grid and leave everything behind, family, friends, everything, and just live, you know, and everything is provided in abundance, you know, because of the knowledge.
Yes, and I can tell anyone, you know, in growing up we were exposed to the Bible and then say, you know, they were used to tell I about the beatitude, you know, blessed is the man that you know, blessed are the peacemakers, for they be called the children of Jah. Blessed are the pure in heart. But there's one little part that I never forget. It's a blessed are he who do hunger and thirst after righteousness. because they shall be filled. That was from I was a youth, when them call God, you know. I had this godly thing in I. That was I, you know. I remember as a youth, you know, I lost some money one time from my father, and I, if I go to my father and tell him that I had lost that money, kill him dead. Him going to say, no, you didn't lose it, you spent it. And I remember I went down on my knees, you know, and pray, you know, and get up, you know. As a matter of fact, we went into the toilet because, you know, those time was toilet, pit toilet.
Yes.
And we went and pray, and I just get up out of this toilet and go walk straight where the money was. You know, so I was that type of individual. But what I found out, and I'm going to tell you something, and the listeners, when I was in high school, there was a tent meeting. You know, church people keep tent.
Yes.
You know, and you know, I was leaving. We were about to do exam, and I was doing 8 subjects at the time. So the first 6 subjects I did in 1 week, you know, would come to the play field, the pavilion, and 16 and my brethren them, and most of them were bigger people than me, older people, but we had spliff, you know, we just build spliff and line them out, and I'm on a study, a review, you know, but everybody respect and no nice, no anything, you know, but herb a burn, and I'm on a review my things and so on, you know. So I did 6 subjects in the first week, and then I remember this tent meeting, and I went to this tent meeting and went up to the altar and cried, you know. I tend to sing a song to pass me, not too gently, Savior, I hear my humble cry. While another thou art calling, do not pass me by, you know. So anyway, I decided that I was going to become Christian. So I didn't smoke any herb the other 2 subjects. When the exam result come out, the judge might pass my first 6 subjects, but under herb, and fail the other 2. So on the weekend now, or sometime after, one of the youth then that in my age group passed another day and said to me, I heard the son Christian. You know, I say, you say son Christian, you know? So I say, yeah. But one thing, you know, Western, into what? I said, I have to go back to burn herb. Into why? I said, because when you burn herb, you think about God. So that was, and this is where I was coming, you know.
Yes.
Even though going through that.
That's going to take us into the sacramental reasoning down the line, but I don't want to jump ahead yet. Because I want the eye really take us to Jerusalem mountain and paint a picture for the Lion Pride about how long did you stay up in the mountain?
You know, I stayed there years from 1973 until I stayed there. I stayed there almost 10 years.
Wow. Because you know what I'm saying, you know, because I'm thinking, because first man said maybe he was the last generation of sackcloth brethren, you know, because we don't see them that type of chat again. We don't see ones that chat, you know, the youth them. But I'm thinking as Rastafari should, you know, especially as the Nyahbinghi, how could we institutionalize something like that? You know, where you have a year program where the youth them, you know, have to go in at them sackcloth and go up in a mountain settings and them have to, you know, learn the survival skills and these things. You know what I mean? But paint the picture. That's another reason. Paint the picture.
Yeah. Because is the thinking, the meditation, and the mindset.
Yes.
You know, and naturally you don't want to impose or force one to do what they don't want to do. But that would have been a nice experience for them to realize what it is that the elders went through, you know?
Exactly.
But anyway, we were there in the hills, but we were planting a lot of food.
Okay.
A lot of food. And guess what? Interacting with the adjoining communities, because we were in the hills, but you had the communities on the flat, you know? And still in the hills, you know? Not anywhere on the flat like in Southern, because, you know, after so-called emancipation, you had some of the slaves that went into the mountains.
Yes.
And created their own villages, you know.
Okay.
So Jerusalem Mountain was one of those villages, you know.
Okay.
So anyway, we were planting a lot of food, and people were giving us things. And
what kind of food? What kind of food? Give us some. We love farmers around here. What type of food did they plant? Give us some.
And I was planting everything, every type of food. You
Tomato.
We're planting mostly vegetables, but planting banana, yam, cocoa, everything named food. Long-term crop like avocado and coconut, soursop. Long-term and short-term food. We're planting everything, but it was acres of land, you know, acres of land that we occupied. I remember we had a valley that was 2.5 acres, you know, in area. So, but we were interacting now with the community because I started 2 youth clubs. Even when I was wearing crocus bag, I started 2 youth clubs in the community. You know, you had community left, community right. So these youth clubs, I gave one named Black Unity and one named Black Foundation. And I was writing, because I've been a writer from high school, you know, I was writing poems and songs all about blackness and black liberation and giving it to the youth and bald youth, you know. Bald youth, but the people in the community, somehow or the other, love Diamond, you know. Love, and I tell her, love Diamond, because there was the next youth inside there who, you know, was going to the same high school that I went to. As a matter of fact, he was a clerk of the court. But, you know, I used to stop, like coming out of the hills, go amongst the youth, them reason with them about them rights and constitutional laws and so on and so on. So I said, then such a youth being clerk of court and don't talk to you. And said, no. So I said, no. So then after when he saw what I was doing, we started a youth club, and in 3 weeks' time we had 70 odd youth amongst us. And parental support and so on, you know. And I remember a youth just coming out of the US, and when I came and saw what we were doing, applauded it. But this youth now was jealous because he being going to this high school and being a clerk of court and now feel that, you know, a crocus bag rasta man, but academically never have anything over I, intellectually never have anything over I, because, you know, we are reasoning man-to-man law,
yes,
you know?
Yes.
So I realized that I was an ignoramus when it comes to constitutionality and international law and these things. So, but he became jealous and organized a like a town hall meeting against I. And there was a primary school headmaster, brought everybody, place full. And the parents just come and express themselves to him and say, well, our children is not good enough for you. So we send our children to who appreciate them. You know, and the headmaster was talking, and everybody was talking on my behalf, even though he had his little group of about 7, you know.
Yes.
So eventually, yeah, but I was taking these youths now to somewhere every mountain to perform. You know, so that was the type of relationship that I had with the communities that I would, you know, living in the hills.
And there I was still treading crocus bag.
Crocus bag, barefoot.
There I was selling your produce and food that there I was making, or
no, wasn't selling, but was swapping.
Okay, barter system.
Yeah, like a man want herb and him have some plant or some coconut or them thing there, you know, because you know coconut tree take long to bear.
Yes.
So even though we had planted coconut, but we weren't reaping our own coconut.
Yes.
And little by little now, you know, the plantation thing start. You know, first time like you'd go and get 10 coconut, 15 coconut, you only go get 2 coconut trees. No, you know.
Yes.
So you had to start with, we were bartering, you know. And the community children now was coming up into the hills where I was.
Yes.
You know, and working with I too. So when everyone, if it's 10 of them, 15 of them, 20 of them, leaving, all of them would have something going home with. Whether a bundle of callaloo, some pak chow, but they all would have something most likely it would be vegetable going home to, you know. So their parents, their families, everybody, you know, most of them, I can tell you 98, 99% of these people, you know, admire I man, even though I was wearing crocodile bag, walking barefoot. But they realized that what I was talking about was, you know, the rights of the people and how much the system mess up with people and then things like so. You know, and these people are descendants of free-thinking people, people who went away, like I said, to the mountains to establish free villages, you know. So, yeah, that was my experience. But that is where I also realized that, you know, you're growing up and you feel like these people are lazy people. No, that is where I realized, no, these people were coming out of them bed at 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, going to them fields, you know, working. So, and then on the weekend now, you would have a truck that come and pick up these things now, like the yam, the banana, and like the Thursday evening, going to market to catch Friday morning, Saturday morning, you know. But these people were very, very productive, very productive. So, I mean, my experience was really eye-opening because for the first time, you know, you grow up on the flat, you go to high school, you export to a certain thinking, and you know, coming and seeing things for yourself, you realize how misleading the world that you have left down there, how very misleading that world was, you know?
Because they make you think that you can't survive without money, and here you are surviving without money. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, the world and I that dwell therein. This is why these psalms resonated so much with the early Ras Tafari. And then also, the item were doing some very critical public relation with the community. When people wonder, you know, why Rastafari have such a good relationship with the people, you know, these were the things that were, you know, because what the I was doing, others were doing in other areas, and that grassroots connection was how Rastafari built that love, you know, in the rural areas, in the inner city communities, because they were dealing with the youth, them feeding the people with ital. Was the eye growing on an ital standard in the mountain?
Yes, until today.
Give thanks.
I don't use spray. I don't use chemical. The only thing I will use is like ants powder.
Okay.
Right, and that is when you're sowing herb, you know, sometimes you have to use it. But otherwise from that, I don't use chemical on the farm because the next thing is that I am a raw food person, you know. I eat strictly raw food for June gone 50 years since I stopped eating cooked food. So I'm not saying that I grow everything, but I try to grow as much things as possible. And because of the fact that I'm a raw food person, I don't use chemicals on my food. Plus, I know chemicals on a whole is not good for your food, whether raw food or not, you know. But
that explains why they at over 70 years old they are slapping up the kettle like that. I'm overstanding now the raw food, you know, the energy, because they are still move youthful, you know, at the high age. But the raw food makes sense now, you know.
Well, that's something where I can go into because the importance of enzymes,
yes,
you know, is not emphasized or illustrated to our people, you know. You know, then just come up and then just go and this a restaurant, that a restaurant. Most of the youth, them, ignorance is an evil thing upon the people because even though you have people, you have doctors, you have people in the medical field and scientific fields who are fully aware, you know, because we went to school, we learn about enzymes and the importance of enzymes and the way in which heat destroys enzymes and so on. But nevertheless, they get caught up in that world to the point that they consume, they become, I mean, cannibalism is really what it is, even though it is practiced in our trying to say decent way. But, you know, all this health thing is something else, you know, but it's really one that destroys our people and two that exploit them economically and otherwise, you know. But like I said, that is something that and I
Yeah,
can go
we
into.
can touch in it. This is just
Yeah.
part one. Two questions. Number one, when you went to that first Nyahbinghi, do you remember any of the elders that were there? Were there any of the elders that I would know that you encountered there, or in that first bingi that day I went to in 1970?
Yes. A lot of these outstanding Nyahbingis were there, Nyahbingi virgin and sister were there. Why? Because anywhere a bingi was going to be held, then brethren and sisters would come from all over Jamaica, sometimes
Okay.
even outside of Jamaica, but for sure
Okay.
all over Jamaica. And there would not this divide
Okay.
amongst the elders. But people like Bongo Wato, Bongo Time, Pa Shanti, you name them, Puro.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
a lot, some of these youth don't even know, never hear the name of Bongo Puro.
Yes, I hear it from Nana Faraika.
Yeah.
Mama Faraika always talk and said that really Bongo Puro was the one, the leader in the house. To an
Yes,
extent.
before Bongo Wato.
Before Bongo Wato, yeah.
Right.
That people would come and get their mediation from Bongo Puro, and he would come and reason and mediate situations.
Yes, but so Bongo Puro, all of these elder virgin that I eventually, because just over the past 20 or little more than 20 years, that since these virgin and sisters start pass on.
Yes.
Because when we met them, they were like 40 something.
Yes.
It's not a matter like they were already 60 odd and 70 odd. No,
Yes.
they were 40 odd, But I can remember Irian.
Yes.
Yeah, Irian was young and vibrant at the time, And when I went into the ground, that I remember there were two cursing pan. They never have big pot cooking out there. They were cooking cursing thing, That is a tin, 4-corner tin that the coconut oil used to come in,
Mm-hmm.
But people used to use it a lot in Jamaica. You used to use it to cook all type of meal, and sometimes our people used to cook clothes in those pantry,
Okay.
Clothes, I mean the clothes that you wear.
Okay.
People used to boil clothes,
Yes.
Because putting it head to kill a germ. But Ira now, he's the first one. First thing into one food, and naturally in just give her a bash and just full it with food and eat and so on. But all of these elder brethren were there. Sister Ina, daughter Daphne. So I really grew up in Ras Tafari, in the Nyahbinghi house, with all of these elders. They were older than I,
Yes.
but like I am Bongo Joe, Ras I-Yah is a little bit younger than I and I.
Yes.
So
Bongo Joe is your schoolmate. He would have been your schoolmate. You were about the same age as Bongo Joe.
No, Bongo Joe is about 2 years older than I am.
Okay.
But Bongo Joe is from Montego Bay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and I am from Westmoreland,
Yeah, man.
So we as youth now, we late teens, early 20s, by the when I and I would have been early 20s, Ras I-Yah would have still been a teenager,
Yes, yes.
But we were, I remember 1980, we celebrated 1 straight month of Nyahbinghi.
Wow. I heard about that, yes.
In Angel Heights.
Mm-hmm.
In Angel Heights, in St. Catherine,
Yes.
1 month celebrating the Golden Jubilee,
Yes.
The coronation of His and Her Majesty. So, but, one of the things is that I went to prison. I went to prison 1982.
Okay. Why did you go to prison?
For Herb, Herb
Okay.
that. But you see, I was very vocal and very confrontational because, I'm not a lawyer, but I made sure I studied the law, both from a Jamaican constitutional point of view and from a United Nations constitutional point of view, So I decided from early that I would not going to allow myself to go through the things that I know my elders before I have gone through. See? So I made sure to study the law. And having a knowledge of the law made me very confrontational, that the police couldn't come and talk to I anyhow or treat I anyhow, because I am going to deal with him, you know, from the point of view make him know, look, I know my rights, and you know, again, even though it ended up in I getting a lot of button licks.
Okay.
Because this is what dirty Rasta boy, they come talk to police them there, you understand? But that was I.
So they was brutalized by the police.
Yes,
You face a lot of brutality.
Right, you know. And so but I would strictly defending my rights and don't care what you have to do. You know, and judges had clashes in the court, you know, that to the point that, you know, I asked, do I have the right to ask the next judge to preside over my case? And say, yes, but why? And I tell them, I say, I have experienced injustices and violation of my constitutional rights at your hand. Because I remember when I swear in the name of His Majesty, the judge told the police to remand I man. And then I and the police them had a hard time down there in the lockup now, and I let them know I have to come out because according to the Jamaican Constitution, article so and so, this is what it says: freedom of expression, freedom of religious belief, and anything there. So about the 5 o'clock, the same clerk of court that used to be in the hills, that I told you call the meeting against I, came to the police and said, the judge said, you have to let out the man. So the police would, Mr. this, Mr. that, make sure that the clerk of court you tell him too bad out, you know. And so when he said, man, you know, he has to let out the, you know.
Yeah.
And eventually let out. So the next time I was in front of that judge, I said to him, the last time I was here, I was told I was to be remanded in custody because swore in accordance to my belief. And would like you to refer me to the volume of law that gives you permission to do those things. So he just say, I can do it again, you know, I can do it again, but anyway, go on, you know. So, you know, I was having a lot of confrontation. I had 3 cases every month, 2 in Montego Bay, 1 in Westmoreland. There was a time when I am my empress at the time. There was a fight that broke out in the courthouse between I and the police then, you know. Because like I say, I don't take stupidness, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't take stupidness. But on a whole, coming from that youthful stage, you know, going to the hills and coming out, when I went to prison, what I experienced, I realized that, no, I and I as Ras Tafari, we have to have some money.
Yes.
You know, because up to the time, I wouldn't put in emphasis on money.
Yes.
It was just treading Ras Tafari and know that
Ras Tafari, bartering.
Yeah,
stick a pin before we get to the money part. When did you're treading Crocus Bar, but when did the I really start sight up I Majesty? You know, Haile Selassie the First. When did I start?
I started out as a youth, you know. We started out as a youth, but then when I went to the hills now, and I started to say I, meaning just like how you would say I Majesty, you can expect I Majesty to do this and do that. Everyone I have I own responsibility. So the I know what to say. I are God.
Yes.
And this is I responsibility to make this place into a better place. So then, you know, we were cut off from Nyahbinghi for a little time, and we were just in the hills. And then now, I start, you know, I never stopped reading. That was one thing with I know. I never stopped reading. So rather than focusing on the religious part of Ras Tafari, I was looking at things deeper from a black liberation point of view.
Okay.
But 360-degree circle, it takes you back to Haile Selassie. See, so when they were looking at things from a biblical, prophetical, historical point of view, or you were looking at it from a black liberation, black African liberation point of view, it takes you back to Haile Selassie. So even though I was saying Haile Selassie Ras Tafari as a youth, this is where my conviction of who is Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie is. And this was not because of what I saw within any Rasta man or woman, but because of what I have discovered on, you know, say, on my own.
Okay.
Because,
so you go ahead.
Yeah, because I was researching things biblically and historically and otherwise, and I was looking at the Black Liberation trend. But every angle you approach it from, you end up with Haile Selassie.
So you were reading books up in the hills.
Yes.
What were some? I am the reading Ras I-Yah V. I am the reading Ras. That's one of my brand. Which books were you reading, or which books on His Majesty that struck a note with the eyes? So for those who are watching, because we have some young Rasses, big up Lion Pride, who is watching, brethren in the US here, him say, blessed love Ras Tafari, family, much respect to Elder Ras I-Yah V. So for brethren like this who are watching from the Americas, all over creation, who will watch this video, give us some of the books on His Majesty that really impact the eye, that are remarkable.
All right, one of the books that I was looking at the time was The Destruction of Black Civilization.
Okay.
By Chancellor Williams.
Yes.
You had a book like Real Facts About Ethiopia. You have Ethiopia and the Origin of Civilization. Cheek Antidiop, Africa, the Origin of Civilization, Myth or Reality. You had wonderful Ethiopian, that's the Asian Kushite Empire.
Yeah.
What they never told in history class by Indus Comet Kush.
I have some of these on my shelf here right beside me. Yeah.
Right. So those type of books now, and Great Men of Colors. But funny enough, with Great Men of Colors now, J.A. Rogers, he's from Westmoreland here.
Okay.
Right? And then at the time, there was no one who was writing about Ethiopia and Haile Selassie like J.A. Rogers.
Yes.
Because even in Destruction of Black Civilization, there's a little, I would say, discriminatory part pertaining to His Majesty, you know, but I didn't look at that to condemn the book, because them say you don't choke the baby with the bath water, you know.
Yes.
Because what you have to do, and that is what I encourage all of my brethren and sisters, young, you know, youth, to read and compare. You know, just don't read and feel that what you're reading is gospel, but you read and compare what you've read and analyze, and, you know, you're looking at things both, not just from spiritual or biblical point of view, but you're looking at things from an ethnological point of view, from a geographical point of view, anthropological point, archaeological point of view, because this is all of these things now you're going to put into. Because when you read about Ethiopia in the Bible as far up as Genesis 2.
Yes.
But when you read about also that the oldest bones were discovered in Ethiopia, you know, you realize that the Ark of the Covenant is in Ethiopia. The lineage of King David and Solomon is in Ethiopia. You know, so all of these things come in. Princes shall, in Psalm 68, princes shall come out of Egypt, Ethiopia shall stretch forth their hand unto God. Amos 9 verse 10 that tell you, oh, ye children of Israel are not ye like unto the Ethiopians. So you have to start put all of these things together to really come to a conclusion that allow your conscience to be free, because it's not something now that you're going to be seeing truth, but trying to, you know, turn a blind eye or try to turn. No, because that's what I and I was doing, and I in particular was just seeking for truth. You know, so those are some of the books, you know, but there were other books that I was reading, but those are some of the books that touch I. But I can tell any man, you see, living in the hills, brethren and sisters, yes, when it comes to evening and that quietness start come on, that level of tranquility and serenity start to dawn on you, and all you hear is the sound of insect. It bring I back to Psalm 87 that says, his foundation is in the holy mountains. Jah loveth the gates of Zion more than all of the. Because I have never experienced, and talking, I can only talk, but until that person experience what it is to be alone in the wilderness. Because sometimes I was alone. All I had was fire. You make sure your fire keep burning. But you're alone, you know, because not all the time I had brethren and sisters. So there are times when you were alone and you had to dig into yourself.
Yes.
You have to go into yourself to talk with that iris, that Jah within man, you know. You have, so these are experiences, brethren. I don't think anyone can, you know, talk to any person for them to really fully comprehend what you're talking about, unless they themselves have experienced something like that, you know.
And this is why I'm wondering if we need to institutionalize some of these experiences. I have a thing on this channel. I talk about the Ras Tafari man standard, you know, because, you know, we have to cultivate the Ras Tafari man. We can't just, those conditions that the I and the elders went through, where you put on your locks, you get kicked out of your house, you find yourself on a campsite, so you're around brethren all of the time, you're living together, you're learning together. That don't exist again. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking, how can we preserve some of these things, like you said, the hills? You know, I'm thinking, how could we put that experience in a rites of passage for our young Rasses? You know, you go up in the hills for maybe a year or 6 months, and you know, you have certain things where you learn, and you know what I mean? This is how I'm on brain think.
Yeah, I think I have to build temples. Temples in the hills.
Yes.
That you go there, and just like how I Majesty as a youth had to go amongst the monks and spend time, you know?
Yes.
And so I think I should, as the time goes on, maybe I'm not in the position now.
No.
But within time, to the good to build temples in the hills, and you know, you have your little cabin and so on. Not anything fancy.
Yes.
Because what I was doing, we built huts out of wood, with and thatch, without zinc, without nails.
I was thinking that would be part of the rites of passage, that they have to build their accommodation, you know.
Exactly.
It would be, you know, maybe there's instructors up there, like you said, that are preceptical and they're holding certain order up there. But, you know, the young youths would come up there, and then their job would be, now they have to find the whisk, them have to chop the wood, them, you know, whatever, they maybe learn some little basic skills, you know, how to do joints or whatever. Talk, how did you build your premises? You said it was made out of wood and whisk. How did you put that together?
Well, you know, trees grow with what they call crotch.
Okay.
Crotch. So, and then there are some whisk that when you use that whisk and tie the building, for example, you dig a hole and put the post in, and then you have what your plate wood, but you cut it in a way that post, you cut half of it, and then now at the top you cut half of it, and then now that wood that is going to become your plate wood, you can cut out a piece of it to match right into your post.
Okay.
So as time goes on, people would use wood pin and drills, you know.
Yes.
But I didn't use those things. We use the whisk to tie.
The whisk is like, explain what whisk is.
Whisk is like rope, but it's natural. Yes. It's grown.
Yeah, yes. It's a type of plant that
right.
grows.
But it grows, and
like a vine.
Right, it's a vine, and when you use that and tie it for years, it is there because no water is wetting it.
Yes.
And and you have your plate wood now, and your mega post, you're going to put it higher than those other posts, you know. And so you're going to build an A-shaped building,
Yes.
right? And then now, so you have your crutch, and you run it again. You know, you have your post, you run it, and then you use your rafters now from that high one to the other two lower. And
Yes.
again, because you make it with a crutch, it stuck onto the plate wood so it can't go any further.
Okay.
And it's stuck on that side so it can't go any further. So you have your A-shaped building. And then again, you use whisk to tie your lock. And then you use the touch now. Naturally, you would get the touch and press it. You would put them down and put weight on them to
Yes.
press them. And then now, sorry, you use them now. But you make it steep
Yes.
so that water don't get a chance to come
Yes.
through. You just,
Okay.
you know? Yeah, so, and then you can build it big. You can have all upstairs without nail. You know what I mean? And you just set the thing.
How big was the one that the eye built? How big was the space that the eye built?
Up in the hills about 16 by 12. But then I came down here at where I am now, but
Yes.
nearer to the main road,
Yes.
and built a big one like about 40 by 30 with upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah, so
But by that time you had nails and them thing there though.
that
Did you use nails when you
no,
built?
no. Just like we were in the hills. So in other words, we're carrying the hills life come to the town, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, so and then now here on the flat now you have some very straight wood that they call mangrove.
Yes.
Yeah, and when they dry they're very tough.
Yes.
So it was easier to build, and then you have bigger touch, broader touch that we call the bull touch.
Yes.
Like, and the touches in the hills now you'd call them silver touch. So it's smaller and take much more to do a building than the bull touch, you know.
Okay.
But there's also a next touch called long touch, you know. So, you know, but yeah, that is how we used to live, you know. That is how we used to live. But we were never out of food. You come into the hills, you see 7, 8 bunch of planting, banana, we had everything. It's only because I realized that I had a duty and a responsibility amongst my people, that my life was not just for me. But knowing what I knew at that time, and knowing the way in which the miseducation and the misinformation have really misled our youth, I took it to the street.
So First Man, when I reasoned with First Man, he said one of the reasons he stopped wearing the crocus bag is, you know, when you start get youth and education conversation, and you realize, say, you have to, you know, healthcare, you know, dealing with the queen and thing, you know, the realities of life start get serious. What was the catalyst or the lion list what made I stop wear the sackcloth?
Right, well, it's like I was saying, certain things start dawn on you.
Yes.
Certain, you know, level of responsibility start dawn on you, and you have to just deal with or live with your own conviction. So there was this time for sackcloth, crocus bag. There's the next time that, you know, is the next phase of your life. And then I went to prison after I had stopped wearing crocus bag and was interacting much more, you know, but still living in the hills. And but then, so when I went to prison, it was a next eye-opening now from an economic point of view, you know.
Yes.
But
How long were you in prison?
1 month, because I had appeal, you know.
Okay.
And I went there for her, but the her was mine, you know. And these again, when you listen to how police can lie in court and how judges can take sides, you know. Because like I said, I've experienced a lot of that in Savamar, in Montego Bay, you know. And so in this court, I was having clashes with the judge, just like any other case, because I always have clashes with the judges, you know. And so he told me, outside of the court, I can talk to him anyhow, but inside, that's his court. So he sentenced I. So I appealed, you know, against conviction and sentence, and went to St. Catherine District Prison. And there I saw a lot of things that unimaginable disaster, because in that prison, you have insane people, mad people, that you dare not give a piece of clothes to put on, because you fear that this person might find ways and means how to hang himself.
Wow.
Naked. And I don't mean 1, 2, or 3 people. You had the back of the cell. In other words, you have a long building, like the front part of it, but then when you go behind now, is also cells, but full of insane people, you know?
Wow.
And I remember one day I saw, they call them warders, about 3, 4 warders beat one man, that, you know, the button that they have is lignum vitae button.
Yes.
And they beat him until these buttons broke up.
Wow.
You know? So I had to write a music called Prison Life, It's Not Easy, Prison Life, It's Not Nice, you know?
Wow.
So one day there I might hear that music, you know? Sometimes on the cold concrete, you got to lay your head, rub up your right to live, you know?
We have to go into the musical side, because I don't know that side there. So we have to push fun.
you know? Yeah, man. So, you know, these things, you see, when you experience these things, they just might make you bitter.
Yes.
They make you bitter, because every day what you're seeing is the injustice, the separation of your people. And even though Rastafari, but I have never really detached myself from my people's struggle, because I know it's just that, like in time gone, when it is said that Jah would have said to Moses, speak unto the children of Israel whenever man or woman decide to separate himself to become another right. I just see I and I as Rastafari as that, those shepherds, so to speak, those angels, but that our people were still our people.
Of course.
And that the essence of truth and right and godliness and morality that I and I as Rastafari defend, it comes out of the people.
Do you think we're losing that in this time? Because I think Rastafari has become very insular, and I think we're very internal. We're not as connected with the Pan-African family as one time. You know, I keep those connections personally, but I know most of the communities I go to, the Rastafari is one side, Pan-African one side, and that interaction with the general population, are we losing that? How do I see it?
In a way, but at the same time, the movement is being broadened, so you have more interaction with individuals who are might not to Rastafari, but still think Pan-African, you know. But at the same time, you still have some Rastafari brethren and sisters who feel that Rastafari is Rastafari and should have nothing to do with our people. And I have never seen it that way, because I came into Rastafari as a revolutionary, you know, with the concern of the rights and the living standard of my people. So I have never separated myself from my people. Yes, in doing, in my eating, in my drinking, in my, relationship, but never at any time forgetting that I am a part of my people, and my struggle, my people's struggle is my struggle. But in terms of, whether we're losing it, and it's only that because Rastafari has become more, all over the world now you're going and it's a Rastafari, right? And you have some bright minds in Rastafari, for example, what they are doing now, using technology to communicate to your brothers and sisters to know exactly where the I head is and where other individuals as Rastafari heads are in terms of how do I and I, as a movement, as Rastafari, relate to the struggle of I and I people.
Yes, important. Very
So,
important.
So yeah.
No, and I think the Pan-African family need to hear our voices on the issues of Black liberation and that part of it, because this one love, we love the one love, it's very important, but we don't want the thing get hippie down into some hippie kind of vibration, because this is a liberation movement. When did I become aware of His Majesty's contribution to the liberation struggle, like in terms of Southern Africa, the funding of the?
Well, it was when I was in the hills,
Okay.
Was when I in the hills like 70, 71, 72, Yeah.
So that's
because it was mostly from a biblical point of view that we were looking at His Majesty.
Yes, yes.
And that's why I said when we went to the hills, now we started to say I. But the fact that I was always a revolutionary-minded person looking at the Black liberation movement, and then looking at the contribution of individuals, I mean, you knew about Marcus, but in terms of His Majesty's role within the Black liberation movement, the establishment of the Organization of African Unity, Kwame Nkrumah, the Accra conferences, that type of thing now, So you were looking at it now, not from really a spiritual point of view, or a biblical point of view, but from a Black liberation point of view, about Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and you had to tie in everything because it's a Black international liberation movement, wherever I was geographically, we had to fight the war, on our own plane, in our own way, how we know we can win, It's like in Africa, you find some now who take up, some of our brothers and sisters take up arms,
Yes.
To fight, for example, in South Africa, in Angola, in Zimbabwe and places like that, Out here now, and I was fighting with the minds. And then it brings you back to Steve Biko, that said the greatest weapon in the hand of the down oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So here, because to be honest, Dijaz, no, as a youth coming up, my thing was to go to Cuba and study, study warfare and come back to Jamaica.
Okay.
You understand? Because it's like when Bob Marley would have said, and feel like booming a church, know that the preacher is lying. The thing that I saw, I man personally, how I was born and what my parents told I and how I grew up and what I saw and working out, and what I experienced. The only thing that I could look at to go and study, warfare, time bomb, sniper rifle, and just come back and kill off some of them people. Yeah.
Wow.
But then now, with a wise man, you would die eventually somewhere. You know what I mean? So you had to look at the wiser way and the better way.
Better way. And Bob
how
Marley
to
said,
fight the war and preserve your liberty and your life.
And Bob Marley said, when Rastafari win the war, all war will cease, something to that extent. And when we look at His Majesty, he took a militant stand for peace. Because remember, His Majesty could have crushed the Derg, but His Majesty chose to not fight against the Derg, to do mediation, and everyone in his cabinet, down to his daughter, thought that he had gone senile because he refused, he militantly said, I'm going to stop, because he knew that the cycle of war does beget war. Once you kill a man, then in youth want come get the revenge, and the cycle does continue, and Ethiopia had been at war for millennia. His Majesty is the first where really just said, no, if the youths them want the revolution, I will allow them to have the revolution. He said that they will learn, and we see what happened up to that time, which brings us to the main topic. This whole idea of liberation, black liberation, Rastafari liberation, the I is on the front line and has been on the front line, as you say, a revolutionary take. We have Diana Atkinson, who said, "Blessed love, Ras I-Yah V." So you have people who are fans or supporters, because we don't deal with fan around here. Yeah, supporters who the Osa Siba, Ras Jabali, say he's creating a space for that right now, when we were talking about the hills and the rites of passage, the Trelawney Rastafari Sanctuary. Lion Pride says, true, we should be pushing the Pan-African part more up front of Rastafari. And that's what, if you watch this channel and Lion Pride by your name, I recognize that you should know we push that heavy on this channel, and then we have Root House. Yes, Elder Ras Negos, Asian I-Yah V, defender of the Rastafari faith, revolutionary patriot, and Ras Negos is another revolutionary patriot, and you can watch his interview on the same platform. We had Ras Negos here. We couldn't go into his case. His case is coming up December 6th. So we're asking the family in Jamaica, we want the ones them go to the courthouse December 6th. We have to rally. These are groundbreaking cases. 50 years from now, we're going to look forward on these times. We can't believe that police still arresting people for ganja, and for I right to be able to utilize and distribute and accept contribution for our sacrament. These are critical things right now. We're still not free. Talk about what needs to be done, Ras I-Yah V, in terms of the total liberation of Rastafari. Give us the eye as an elder chatting from that time. Give us the eye vision.
Well, give thanks, and I want to give thanks to all the ones who, respond, like Diane. Diane is my sister, and I remember when we did the first Root Fest, she was there. Negos, Jabali, Just want to give thanks. Lion Pride was one I sponsor, Okay. So we just want to give thanks to those individuals, knowing that they are still around and still a part of the struggle, But you see, I remember reading something with a picture of Jomo Kenyatta.
Yes.
And Haile Selassie. And His Majesty said, what we seek for Africa. And it said political and economics. Politics and economics is the last aspect of the colonial stranglehold upon our people. And economics more so. And like I said, there was a time when a man was handling money. And then there was that time if you want to use money, you take a leaf and hold the money. And then going to prison, I realized that no, you need some money. You have to start make some money. So to be honest, we start go underground, and start move herb from places to places and start make some money and push the revolution more. We start, remember 1987, when we organized 7 days of motorcade, celebrating the centenary of Marcus Garvey, and 3 days of Nyahbinghi at the Bath High School. And Bongo Iris, that same Bongo Iris there,
Yes.
He was a part of that trad, and he was the one who got Bath High School for I to keep
man.
3 days of Nyahbinghi, 1987, you know.
Yeah, man. Big up Ras Iris, one of our founding members of IDOR. Right now, you know, he's, you know, has seen better days in terms of his health, but his mind is sharp as a razor, you know. So we big up Ras Iris. He listens to the Lion voice from time to time too. So I will make sure him hear that part, yeah.
Yes, because why I mentioned Ras Iris, 1987, that is 36 years ago. 36 years ago, Ras Iris was influential in the Bath, so influential to the point that he could have gotten Bath High School for I doing the Marcus Garvey motorcade.
Wow.
I went right around the island.
Yes.
To have 3 days of Nyahbinghi. That was something astonishing, you know?
Yeah, man.
So anyway, we did that, and but you know, we start realize that because underground funding or those activities, you know.
Yes.
And then every 1st of March we used to have a march celebrating the victory at the Battle of Adowa. Every 1st of February, the beginning of Black History Month. So we started to intensify our educational campaign. And going back now to the days of when our ancients were like evangelists going out there on the streets.
Yes.
So I was taking the streets. You know, coming up to 1996, we organized big ganja march because we realized that herb was the avenue that the system was used to harass Ras Tafari, because I were not criminals, we were not rapists. So the herb battle is something that we would have to fight, because, you know, we got to let the system know that, hey, I are aware that this is a violation of I constitutional rights. So we're confronting them, you know, on all angles, but without money, we couldn't fund the program or the type of program that I would have wanted, you know, to get going. So, you know, as time goes on, we start look at it, and like I said, we're going underworld, but finding other creative ways of making money. So we start even do events at Nyahbinghi and outside of Nyahbinghi too, because, you know, I was doing, for example, 1995, we're doing every August, I would have a knockout competition, you know, where I live right at this big play field. A knockout competition, a Garvey knockout. I did that for about 11 years straight, you know.
What do you mean when you said knockout? What do you mean?
Football.
Oh, okay.
Because, you know, it was a strategic way of getting to the youth.
Yes.
Because we didn't want to segregate, you know, so we'd get the youth in now, and we have, you know, football competition, and then in the night now we have concert and everything there. You know, I know it's ital food, ital juice, ital everything, and some serious lyrics and reasoning, you know.
Yes, outreach.
Yeah, so we're doing that because we realize now that differently from Ras Tafari, I had to have the support of I people. And even when I were doing these marches in Kingston, I remember we were moving from Eastwood Park Road, going to where old JDC was, going across to Mandela Park, meaning you have to cross over Constant Spring Road right in half a tree. And I remember bald-head youths lay down across the road. No vehicles couldn't come through. And I could march and go into Mandela Park, and when we finish march, then get up. You know, so there were these youths who were out there, they were bald-head youth, but they were supportive, very supportive of what I were doing. When 1996, when they had the ganja march, we had miles miles of people. Juna Manning and I planned that march because I have a son named Adawa, and we were celebrating, the victory of Ethiopia over Italy in 1896.
How many children do I have?
Almost double digit.
Okay.
But anyway, we stayed at Bonnie Wheeler, jobless, because we had very good relationship with Bonnie at the time.
Yes.
So we stayed at his home, and to tell you the truth, anyway, and bring it to back, and very supportive of the march, even though a lot of these reggae musicians didn't know the history. For example, if I tell them about Adawa, what is Adawa?
Wow.
So we have to use these occasions as educational. Yes, to inform our youth on how important it is that, I and I as a people become knowledgeable of what had taken place and what we need to do, So we realized that the economic part of it was very important. But then we realize now that her being an income stream, and all these marches, because we had 2 marches in Westmoreland here, 96, 97, and then we were planning other marches. We were writing letters. For example, remember we wrote a letter to P.J. Patterson, who was then the Prime Minister, seeking audience to discuss repatriation, reparation, decriminalization, legalizing the educational system and so on. But we were never granted those audiences. So a lot of time we had to take to the street to express, our position and our viewpoint pertaining to anything that was happening, because, there was a time when dreadlocks children couldn't go to school and so on. So we had to take even school board to court, and big up to Miguel Land, Michael Land, He was the revolutionary lawyer at the time, And so, it went on, and in terms of becoming total liberated, even though I and I, we know we still are not, because I was looking at Nego's case at the moment, to show you that we're still not enjoying our constitutional rights, but we realize how important the unity is. And so in 1987, in a journey, when his modest grandson, David McConnell, came out here, we set up the EIUC.
Talk about it. Yes, talk about that. Mama Faraika always talks about that. Ras Miguel talks about it, but explain for those who are not familiar what that was.
Well, all over the years, and I realized there are those and I in the forefront of the movement realized that and I had to come together. We had to come together to speak and act with one voice, rather than approaching whether it was government entity, international entities in a splintered way. So when his Mr. grandson, David McConnell and Tamrat and Mulgeta came here in 1987, there was problem, Peter at one time was up by Peter Tashform, and it was problem, not everyone could get to go by Peter, and Peter wouldn't allow everyone in his home and so on, So he reasoning with him suggested that we should put a committee together that would have the different mansions and houses together.
Yes.
So and I did that, and we set it up in the form of the EIUC, Ethiopian International Unification Committee. And we were publishing a newspaper called RIN, Ras Tafari International News.
Okay.
With the first publication I did was 1987. Ras I-Yah V was the feature writer. And we opened the publication with the grand coronation, coronation of His Majesty and Her Majesty. So that was going on for a time. And in 1987, when we organized the Marcus Garvey Centenary, it was the Nyahbinghi House in association with EIUC, because you had youths, and I were Nyahbinghi youth, but we were still part of EIUC, So it was easy to coordinate. And but it went on now until at that time that went through. 1994, we set up the RCO, Rastafari Centralization Organization, because, you know, anyone thinking Rastafari, and we always, I personally, and I know others have done that, we always point with brethren and with sisters to the fact that even though Ethiopia was the only country in Africa that was never conquered, never colonized, it's managed to realize that until the continent is liberated, then Ethiopia's independence would have been meaningless.
Yes, he said that.
See, and so what he did was to, you know, people like Kwame Nkrumah and the Accra conferences and countries were getting independent. So by 1963, he was able to spearhead the setting up of the OAU, the Organization of African Unity, you know. And, you know, even part of that speech, I have a music form too, which eventually they have not, you know, I will get it one day because I asked somebody to send it today. But it went on again until when the RCO, give thanks, Brother Da Silva, who had passed on for years, he was the chairperson. And then in 2007, now the
His brother Da Silva, that same Ras historian?
Come again?
His brother Da Silva, the Ras historian?
No. Ras historian and Ras Da Silva would have been in the same age group.
Okay.
But Da Silva was president, because remember I said today that I was involved in this trade union movement.
Yes.
So I got to know Da Silva like 1969 because he was president of the Public Cleansing Workers Union.
Okay.
And there was anybody listening, you know, very few might remember, very few if they know. But there was a place on Wildman Street, 2 Wildman Street off East Queen Street that we had our HQ called ITAC, Independent Trade Union Advisory Council, you know. So, but I met him from that time. So he was chairperson for the RCO, Rastafari Centralization Organization, when it was set up in 1994. And then, like I said, in 2007, the RMC, Rastafari Millennium Council, was established. Again, it shows that until I and I can speak and act with one voice, government will continue to treat I and I as if I and I is insignificant and unimportant, you know. And so, again, that was undermined. And today, I would know that the RMO, the Rastafari Mansion and Organization, is gelling together with the same aim and objective to get Rastafari to act and speak with one voice, you know. But the economics, irrespective of what our dreams are and irrespective of how sweet a chant and I might chant or how powerful a prayer and I can pray, until and I face the reality that His Majesty faced. Because when His Majesty came into Ethiopia, there are a lot of things that His Majesty did that was against, the churches were against it.
Yes.
You know, certain elders were against it. But His Majesty knew that these things had to be done based on the fact that, one, Ethiopia was encircled with colonialism, right? The educational system, His Majesty had to establish a constitution. His Majesty had to establish a parliament. His Majesty had to establish universities and colleges because of the era, because of the time, the dispensation that I and I are living in.
And they all cost money, you know. I just want to take time, big up the Lion Pride. We have 20 of I and I here. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're going into some deep history. We have one of our frontline Rastafari elders who was there in the early days of the Nyahbinghi House, giving us the history of the activism or the action, you know, don't even make me say activism because we born ism, but the action that was taken by I and I as Rastafari over the years. We're talking about the total liberation. If you have any questions, put them in the comments so we can make this interactive. I want to big up all of the listeners. Sarah Breedlove says, your individual life work should determine the rite of passage, not Pan-African rhetoric. Tell us some more, Sarah. I'm interested to hear, more about that perspective. Big up Empress Chica. Just send some love and some eyes. But if you have any questions for the elder, put them in the comments. We're gonna wrap up shortly, but we're talking about the complete liberation. We're gone almost 2 hours already, Ras I-Yah V. The thing flying by, may I tell you. But the total liberation, we're at RMO now.
Yes.
What are the things that we need to do as Rastafari to create? My thing is on this channel, the building of Zion, meaning we burn Babylon, but what is the alternative that we present? What is it that we are coming to the people with that would make them want to leave Babylon and do the right and to come into Rastafari? What do we have for our youths that's attractive? What are we building in terms of infrastructure, in terms of a new society, members of a new race? How do I see it as an elder who, has seen the changes in Jamaica? Jamaica to I right now is at one of the lowest places morally it has ever been, with the crime, the scamming, the violence, the lack of respect where Rastafari are getting certain sectors from the youth them. How do I see the way forward? Let's get into it right now, Ras I-Yah V, the liberation time.
Well, in the first place, when the movement came into being, it was more evangelical.
Yes.
That's where it all started out, trying to make people realize who or what Rastafari is really all about. Then in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, reggae music took it internationally. And so where we are, even though I would tell a person that I give thanks for reggae music, but in a way it has helped water down the music because a lot of these artists that is talking about Rastafari, singing good lyrics, their way of life is a bad example to the international community looking at Rastafari for example and role modeling, But I know we have to realize that we have moved into a stage now of governance. Governance in the sense that we have to show youth that there is an alternative within Rastafari to the system that we grew up in and have been exposed to. But we have to look at it from a nation building point of view. Because nobody wants to suffer, nobody wants to hunger, nobody wants to be naked, nobody wants to be shelterless. See, and we have a creed, let the hungry be fed, naked, clothed, sick, nourished, aged, be protected, and infant be cared for. So our duty and our responsibility is to fulfill that creed. But how do I and I fulfill that creed without I and I having certain type of resources in our position? Now, having these resources, for example, we use that jam down and we look at RMO as a centralized body. But we have to look at it wider than that because we have to look at the Caribbean. See, and we see CRO, Caribbean Rastafari Organization. We have to find needs and needs on how we can bridge, how we can come together. We have a brethren and a sister in the US, in Europe and other parts of the world. We have to find ways how I and I can come together and develop I and I economic, how we can develop our economics in general. We have to be able to be in a position that I and I can communicate effectively. I want to say effectively and meaningfully with the leadership of the African continent. We have now not the OAU, but the AU, the African Union, that has granted 20 seats and to the African in diaspora, knowing that we have considered to be the sixth region. So we have to find ways and means develop our economy to the point that whenever conferences taking place in Africa, I can have representatives
Yes.
from the diaspora participating in those conferences. So I understand what are their concerns as leaders within the continent, and they understand what it is that how I view things from being in the diaspora, because we all have our different experiences, but we also have similar experiences, So I don't look at, I'm looking at repatriation, looking at it from a step to step, because there must be pioneer process, pioneer programs, where some can go in front to the continent to, to create buildings, create foundation that others, we look at Ethiopia and see how, Shashamani, some were there before, and then one continue look at Ghana, Senegal, and other countries. So we have brethren and sisters that keep going on the continent, putting up infrastructure that make it easier for those of I who have not reached there yet, but want to come. So, in other words, we have to come together, as the I say, His Majesty say, greater outlook, greater vision, So in that doing, we have to look at going to the continent is one.
Yes.
But what do I do when I go to the continent?
This is what we want to talk about.
What is I duties and responsibilities? Because here are now. When I was, just coming into the Nyahbinghi, and we had brethren like Daniel and Bongotani and Pashanti and these Nyahbinghi Congo man, terrible hard is like, sorry, when I go to Nyahbinghi and hear these chants, you forget where you are. You feel you're drawn to it, whether you want to or you don't want to. You're drawn to these type of chants. But I'm an elder then used to say to I that when them go Africa, they won't be working out there in the field, they will be in the palace, chanting praises to His Majesty. Well, I always say to my elders that, with all due respect, but I look upon how I can rebuild the continent. So that was my vision, because I know I had a role and a responsibility in helping in the rebuilding of the continent.
Yes. The
So
building of Africa. Has I been to Africa?
No.
Okay.
Tickets have been bought to 2 different occasions offered made for people,
Yes.
But I really want to reach from the continent, the Jasmine, in a way that when I reach there, people already know about I and my vision, my activities, and that's where the music comes in, that's for next time,
Okay.
But
yeah, we're gonna bring the just on the music, and we don't touch Roots Fest. With so much part of the I tried, it can't go in such a short time spell. If questions, please bring them for the elder. Lion Pride is asking, did the Ras know Mortimer Planner, Sam Brown, or Ras Pidal?
all of these brethren, I don't know the Jasmine, but 98 when I came to New York.
Yes.
Remember we came to Washington we went to this university that His Majesty visited and left crosses and so on in Washington. But yeah, as a matter of fact, and all of these brethren were very close. I and Marty in particular was very close. I always drive to his home, and I remember when I had the Nyahbinghi here in 1985, Marty Planner was here, Peter Tash was here. All of those elders were here. Sam Brown now, the good thing, Sam Brown was a real revolutionary in the sense that in 1962, he ran against Edward Siaga in West Kingston. That's his type of spirit Sam Brown was. Ras Pidal was a poet, But yeah, I know all of these brethren, all of these elders, I know I've sat with, reason we have had our similarities, have our differences, because I'm not going to be a hypocrite and because my elders said so, and I don't see that way that I'm going to, But
Yes.
there was always respect, but I want to know I'm not that you can crack easily, I'm not, and I don't take stupidness from anybody, and I don't take stupidness from the system. But the thing with Bongo Water now and all of these birds in Bongo Tani, then they were very supportive of like Iron Ivy and others' ideas, in how do I and I confront the system? What can I and I do? They were always there, when I and I had the 1987 Marcus Garvey centenary celebration and motorcade. Bongo Water was there, Bongo Tani was there, Bongo Rocky was there. They were all there.
Yes.
So there's the type of respect and love and things, when it comes to Bongo Water food, because Bongo Water knew that we were ital.
Yes.
Only I and I could have looked about anything, whether we have looked about salad and so on, to give Bongo Water. Only I and I would have eat from, So yeah, they were this. I have known all of these elders, all of these. Because like I said, when I came into Ras Tafari, these elders were just 30 odd, 40 odd, and they weren't dying.
Yes.
They weren't dying, they were vibrant, and all over the place, you know what I mean? But
it's sad that we've lost so many of them because they were each unique characters. I had an opportunity to reason with Ras Martimo Plano. I had an opportunity for reason with Ras Pido. He was up here with I, and I used to come to Isis every Saturday. We used to chant with Ras Pido. Used to come down from Baltimore to the Nyahbinghi House in DC. And some of the chant them were Ras Pido raised. I'd never hear them chant there since that time, some unique chant where Ras Pido used to chant, and as you say, he's a poet, and one of them brethren where love the mystical part of the trad, and very, very wise, So we really give thanks for know that. Sarah Breedlove said individual self-governance, discipline, intelligence, and spiritual awareness can bring unity. You must have Jah as head. And I think that is something that is happening right now, Sister Sarah, is that Haile Selassie is being restored as the head of the movement, because I think for a long time, individual personalities were, moving the movement in different directions. But I think now one's acknowledge fully that His Majesty teachings is the one thing that we agree on. That's the one time really hear now. Because even when you read the Bible, a man might interpret it one way, this man interpret it that way, a man might fling a psalms after a next man. All of them things that go on when we stay in the biblical realms. When we read the teachings of His Majesty, it's very clear, and very straightforward, and we can agree whether it's 12 tribe, Bobo Shanti, Nyahbinghi, we all can come to the speeches. And I have to big up man like Ras Tafari for, making the autobiography, The Wise Mind. Big up Isa J too, because, the what was the book where Isa J did have the little small booklet, Members of a New Race.
yeah.
Before Wise Mind. That was like Wise Mind before Wise Mind, And I think these things help to build a unity in the movement, because the teachings of His Majesty become more prominent. You know what I mean? How do I cite that part there?
Now, well, one thing I give thanks for the jazz man. It was when I just came into the Nyahbinghi, our daughters couldn't talk.
Yes.
Seeing? If when I and I sister wanted to talk, she had to talk to her kingman, and then her kingman would have to bring it to the attention of the house, So as youths looking at His Majesty's example rather than at the Yeshua example, I would call the Jesus Christ doctrine, And I, we challenge the elders. We challenge them and say to them that in Ethiopia, our daughters play an important role in the governance of Ethiopia, in the Crown Council and so on. So if I and I, sister, then cannot speak in the tabernacle, then please provide a place for them so that they can talk. Because most times you find a man will work money and bring it home, but it's the woman who has to spend that money.
Yes.
So she is the real economist. She is the one who knows about the domestic situation more than even I and I.
Yes, I.
So I said that to come now to the teaching of His Majesty. Because I and I was the generation also, along with Junior Ras I-Yah V,
Yeah, man.
I and I would demand that the speeches of His Majesty be read side by side with the Bible.
Okay.
And
Talk
just
about
like,
it.
yes, and I stood up for that, as youth. Because, like I say, and just like the I stated, you read one Bible, you read a passage of the Bible, and 10 brethren would interpret it 10 different ways. But His Majesty spoke on every topic, every issue. Religion, economics, education. His Majesty spoke on every issue. So it was just important and significant at the time to relate what His Majesty had been saying and was saying to the condition that I and I found I and myself in at the time. Because, for example, I and I come up burn money too. But then when you look at the speech that His Majesty said about money, the speech about spiritual and material advancement, and these things. So irrespective of what you were thinking as Ras Tafari, here you are now having the speech that His Majesty, made about any of these issues and topics that we were discussing. So rather than your individual point of view or from you interpreting it from a biblical point of view, listen to what His Majesty said.
Straight.
And after a time, all of these things became accepted, new generation, different generation come. And, with the music, you have youth start read more.
Yes.
Because I remember sometime when I went and read a program and come off, people would ask and Ras, where did them get them information from? But I was, for example, when I came to Washington and New York and came back to Jamaica with all my duffel bag now, full and a man really said shoes and clothes. When I do so, it's pure books. I remember Liberation Bookstore down by in Harlem.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where we used to come and get our books, because we wanted to know. We wanted to know not just from biblical point of view, but from historical, anthropological, archaeological, ethnological point of view. We wanted to know about His Majesty, about Africa, about Ethiopia, and so we had to read because nobody was bringing those information to I and I. No. And I give thanks that today, those of I and I who were spearheading those activities, as youth, most of us are still here, carrying on the thread. So I'm having acknowledged, and I always point somebody to say, look at His Majesty Haile Selassie example, what he did in Ethiopia. That even if you look at Faces of Africa, the documentary series talking about Kenneth Kayunda, Nyerere, and all of these founding fathers of the OAU and so on. They did because it was important to, one, educate our people. Coming out of European colonialism and the miseducation, it was very important to develop a system of education that would liberate the minds of the people, because that is more than anything that we what need. Where the liberation, the first aspect of the liberation have to come from, So, His Majesty's example is what I look at, and I don't burn the Bible. I still read the Bible, and especially when I'm doing presentation with students, especially, I still make references to the Bible. But I know that the speeches of His Majesty it clarifies and it gives you a clearer view, a clearer vision of what His Majesty's viewpoint is on any one of these subjects or any one of these topics, And as such, I think that is the example that I and I must look to in this time, because that is what is going to inspire I and I to move, take the movement to the next level, because as I and I coming out of youthful stages, within the movement, becoming elders now, I and I have to realize the responsibility that I and I have in helping to shape the movement. That because we don't have a bongo water, a bongo time, a bongo Daniel, we don't have I and I elders now amongst I and I. So I and I have become that elders, those elders.
Yes.
And as such, we have to now shape the movement in a way that it becomes more relevant.
Yes.
To the international Black liberation movement, that our brothers and sisters on the continent, that the African leaders on the continent, and Black people anywhere, and people in general, not just our African brothers and sisters, but people in general will realize how relevant this movement is, not just to the liberation of our people, but toward the achievement of international peace.
It's important. I think we have a role to play. I'm gonna get a hot take from the eye before we seal up. There's a war in the Middle East, World War III. Some people say there's a ground invasion taking place. I think they just signed a ceasefire agreement to allow them to bring in humanitarian supplies. And for those who are savvy, like myself, will know that tomorrow is Thanksgiving in America, where, all of America will be home, and America is the main funder of this war. So they didn't want to have Palestinians being murdered on the Thanksgiving Day. So all of this plays into what's happening, why they're halting the hostilities tomorrow in the Middle East. But this war is not going to cease anytime soon. Israel said after the 4-day ceasefire, they're going back in. They're preparing tanks, all of these things for going to Gaza. As an elder who was around some of the great chanters of prophecy, like Bongo Watto, like Bongo Time, these are the prophetic Bingi elders who talk about the Armageddon. And as a revolutionary who know about apartheid and all of these things, how do I citing what's happening in the Middle East right now, in Russia, Ukraine? Are these things relevant to I and I, or is it business as usual?
Well, everything that happens in the world, irrespective where, affect I and I some way or the other, whether in a good way or in a bad way. Now, just, looking back quickly at the history of, Israel, and I know how this so-called state of Israel was established. Coming from Britain and from in the 1920s, coming up to 1948 when the state was established, But the uprooting of the Palestinian people. But what a lot of people don't know is that where it's called Palestine or Israel, whatever they want to call it, is the ancient land of Canaan.
Yes, talk about that part there.
And who are the ancient Canaanites from a biblical point of view?
On a Cush, brother.
Yes. And who are the Cushites? Who are the Canaanites? They are black people.
Yes, yes.
How did the Palestinians, or the people who they call Palestinians, and the Arabs, come to occupy those lands? Just like what happened in what is called North Africa, because we know those lands are still part of North Africa.
Yes.
We still know that Cush and Nimrod was there between the Tigris and Euphrates River.
Yes, yes. Cushite. Abraham come out of a Cushite civilization, the Chaldeans.
Exactly,
It's all Cushite in them time there.
And that's why the book Wonderful Ethiopian of the Ancient Kushite Empire will show you, and there's the next one.
Sumer and all of these civilization, they were
exactly.
All yeah, man.
Exactly. It showed you, and it showed you the role that Ethiopia played in ancient and medieval history. right? But anyway, coming up, we know that through Islam, a lot of North Africa was conquered.
Yes.
And taken into the put, and the Arabs took control of it. There was a time when war in Egypt that you had the Lower Nile and the Upper Nile, and so on, you know. So Ukraine, if you look at America and look at it biblically, prophetically, and historically, I have come to the conclusion long ago, and just listening to the Republican debate in Florida the other day, it was reinforced that all of these people who put themselves in the leadership of America, being presidents or whoever, are people who is of the mentality that they must control the world. There's something in white people, and I'm not saying all white people,
Yes.
but the leadership of most of these white countries. You take France, you take Britain, you take Italy, you take Belgium, and by extension the US. Look at the many wars that US have gotten itself involved in because they feel they're supposed to be the world police. You look at Vietnam, they were beaten in Vietnam. You look at in Afghanistan, after 20 years, they were beaten in Afghanistan. We know that Israel was established there by the Anglo-American system, the Euro-American system, in order to create a base in what they call the Middle East. Now, if you look at Ukraine war, I'm not a communist, I'm not a Russian supporter, but truth and right is truth and right. And I see the role of NATO and America trying to even violate things that they have agreed to in Ukraine that caused the war to be taking place. Now, if you look at what took place according to reports coming out in Israel, whatever, even David Cameron, as messed up as he is, what they call Gaza or Palestine an open-air prison.
Yes.
No different from what took place in South Africa during the time when Nelson Mandela was thrown into prison, So I see that these Palestinian people, they have a right to fight. Irrespective of the fact that, yes, I know that those lands, belong to African people. But over the years, we know that they have occupied it, they were there. So for Israel to come now and to want to dominate them, you have all type of blockade and then rule and tell them what goes in, what comes out. It's obvious that one day these people will rise up and fight. And if you look at the situation again that they are faced with, and the way in which Saudi Arabia and the negotiation with these Arab countries and Israel, it was in a way as if some of these Arab countries have forgotten the plight of the Palestinians. So in other words, Hamas, the same Palestinian people had to do something to remind the world and even their fellow Arab people that this situation still exists, I know America. I can't see America winning this war, just like I can't see America winning the war in Ukraine. And it's funny that we know that NATO is America's biggest military ally.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if we were to look at
it... They run NATO.
Yes. Mm-hmm. To the point that France is hitting out against America, saying, don't allow America to dictate to Europe. But it's assured us like the prophecy of Daniel, where the clay and the iron and the this and the that couldn't stick. So even though they are NATO, just like how Turkey is a part of NATO, but Turkey is hitting out against what is happening in the Gaza Strip. Hitting out again. But just look at it. If we look at it now and look at America, in the GA other day, 120-something countries voted for a ceasefire. And about 14 countries led by America and Israel voted against the ceasefire. Now, can you imagine some of these countries have veto power in the UN? That even if the whole world decide that this war shouldn't go on, one country can say it's supposed to go on. I personally know that the UN is dominated by Euro-American people. It's just there as a puppet organization supporting the needs and the desire of the Euro-American establishment. If it was in some countries, I'm sure some UN peacekeepers would have gone down there. No, but because it's America that is involved in the war, and it's you, America, is so much against wars, and you are so much in defense of democracy. Why is it that people like Allende in Chile that you overthrow? Why is it that Aristide? Why is it that Lumumba? Why is it that Cabral? Why is it that Sankara? Why is it that Kwame Nkrumah? You look at all of these third world liberationary individuals, so to speak. Why is it that these countries eliminate them and install their puppet? So the world is coming to a stage now where certain countries realize that it's by the gun. Because when I used to be on the radio, I remember I had I had a talk program called Vibes Talk, and I was asking the question. For 2 weeks, I had it on the program. If we were kings and queens, emperors and empresses, what happened along the way that we find ourselves in this level of barbarism and poverty? For 2 weeks, I had this program, more than 2 weeks. And it was Cecil Gusmore, after I left England and was living in Jamaica, that said to Ras I-Yah V, even though I knew the answer, but I was just throwing out the question. He said, with the rise of the Industrial Revolution, the gun is what Europeans used and conquered Africa and the world. So these countries all over the world are realizing that this is what the white man used to conquer and dominate people. And so you have countries like North Korea, Iran, all of these other countries now, Turkey, start to build their own weapon.
Yes.
Because they know that that is the only deterrent. You look at Gaddafi, who gave up his nuclear pursuit, and what happened?
They killed him.
Right?
You see, Sadiqi mentioned Gaddafi name there, so big up yourself, Sadiqi Spliff. So I want to know, do you think this is the spark that leads us to World War III? I've been telling the Lion Pride, my viewers, that World War III start already. How as a Nyahbinghi elder, two things. Do you think this is the spark, and do you think that the world is missing Rastafari talking on these issues? Because one of the things that we notice is that I and I quiet on world issues, as Rastafari people. Is not like one time, even when you listen to the reggae music from the 70s, the man them were chanting on all type of world issues, and Rastafari was more active, as you said, with the freedom fighting around the world. Do you think this is the spark that leads us to World War III and the Armageddon War, and then do you think that Rastafari need to talk more on these type of global issues?
Well, answering the last question first, yes, I think as Rastafari, and I too silent. not only when it comes to international issues, but even when it comes to certain injustices that exist within our different geographical region. Because sometimes Rastafari feel that what happened to a non-Rastafari black brother or sister out there cannot happen to Rasta. But it happened to Rasta. And sometimes it's worse, you know? But so I think, and I have been saying that one time I did a radio program on Hot 102 here in Jamaica. And when the program was about to finish, you know, the interviewer said to I, the judgment,
What's that?
he said, Rastafari is too powerful a force to be so silent. See? And remember, you know, old time people say silent is consent. But His Majesty also said it is the silence of the voice of justice when it matters most
That allows
that has enabled evil
to triumph.
See? So, in reality, people really need to know what is I views at I position when it comes to certain of these events, certain of these wars, certain of these political wranglings and strangling that is going on, you know. And as such, again, I give thanks to, you know, a program like their own that gives Rastafari the opportunity to express their views and opinion pertaining to what is happening internationally, you know.
It's crucial. And I want everyone hit the subscribe button. If you're not subscribed, this is the only place you're going to hear Rastafari with these reasoning at this time. Big up all of the other platforms, you know, but everyone have their lane. And I'm very passionate about global affairs. I studied international law school. I love that part of His Majesty, the global statesman, and the mediation of peace. And I think that we should be a voice for peace, because His Majesty laid out what they need to do for world peace already. Exactly. That's how we know that they're not serious about world peace, because they never follow His Majesty. His Majesty laid down the framework.
The blueprint. Yeah.
The blueprint. He told them disarmament, use the money, invest in raising the standard of living of the people. They weren't interested. They went into an arms race, all kind of things. So we are where we are. I think, go ahead.
Yeah, the first part of the question was if I think this is the spark.
Yes.
Funny enough, you know, Ukraine war is going on, but you don't see so much attention and so much protest
around that, yes.
Around the Ukraine war.
They say over 500,000 Ukrainians dead, you know, from that war there.
Yeah.
500,000. They're finding pregnant women and women on the front lines now. Ukraine run out of soldier, you know.
That generation of youths that have died out.
Yeah, man. Terrible, terrible.
Yeah. So, and this is all the work of NATO. It is because they feel that they should keep conquering and conquer, you know. So, so I look at it that, funny enough, look where this kickoff gone down, in the place that they call Israel, in the place that they call the Gaza Strip, in that ancient world, so to speak. That is where this thing, and so the great possibility is, yes, it can evolve into a third world war, because the oil technically is in the hands of the Arab. That's a weapon that has been already used and can be used again. If you look at the type of weaponry that is on display, you know, hypersonic missile, nuclear weapons, you know what I mean? You never can predict, you never know what spark might ignite.
That's what His Majesty say.
See? And it holds the same for all of us, life or death. Right? So it's only for these individuals now to be wise enough and to say, where is this going to put us? You know what I mean? Killing off all of these people, where is this going to put us? And I have never seen a war so barbaric like this one, the judgment.
It's rough. No man.
I have never seen a war so barbaric where, because you have bigger weapons, you have aircraft, you have tanks, you feel that you can just go about and destroy people's life, people, everything, and the world stands by.
I think they say it's over 11,000 Palestinian dead so far. There were 1,400, I think, Israelis killed on this October 7th attack. And we have to say on these platforms that we don't advocate for any side of the war. We stand for truth and rights. Ras Tafari has said from a longer time, we are against all war, because war as a means to settle disputes, His Majesty says, futile. And again, I keep emphasize how His Majesty took a militant stand for peace. He's the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, meaning he's the highest authority. So we don't want, I'm looking at the time, we're gone 2.5 hours. We're going to have to do a part 2. This was such a mighty, when you talk to a Nyahbinghi elder, you can't just go quickly. Before we go though, quickly, I remember the first time that I met?
Was it at the conference or was it in Washington?
I'm trying to remember, because as I was prepared, I said, where have we know I-Yah V from? When it was the first time? I think it might have been up here,
Yeah, because I remember 1988 we came to New York and we went to Howard, we went to Baltimore, Washington.
Yes. I wasn't trotting that time still. I didn't start trotting till about 98. But I know, did I come up here in the late 90s, early 2000s?
Yes, and have been coming because I remember 1994 we had the International Ras Tafari conference
in Florida. That was in Florida.
Right, in Florida, yes, 1994. Yes. And but we've been coming into New York.
Yes.
Not Washington. I haven't been to Washington since 88. Okay. But regularly would come to New York,
So maybe it's Jamaica then. Maybe it's Jamaica that we met then.
Yes. But and I know when they used to do the music conferences.
Yes.
Right, and I come in there for bringing that consciousness, that spirituality, because without spiritual guidance, whatever I do will eventually come to naught,
Yeah, and Jamaica Music Conference, we're not gone anywhere. We're taking a little pause to reset, but we're coming forward stronger than ever. We're definitely going to have more Rastafari content at the next staging. Ras Negos said World War III is not against nation, it's against the people. It's hard to disagree with Ras Negos. How do I cite that statement there?
Well, it's really about people, but it's also about nation too, because when you check I as African people, wherever I are globally, there's a system that is established, set up, administrated against our liberation, or against our upliftment. So it is also about nation in the sense that Israel consider themselves to be a nation, Palestine consider themselves to be a nation. So it is both. And a lot of times, because even in Palestine, you still have black people, because black people are the original people of Palestine.
I studied with Dr. Kane Hope Felder, who was at the Howard University School of Theology. And he did research, he did the African Heritage Bible. And they did research to show the black, origins of the Hebrews. And, he went to Palestine and found the original, the black people of the land that are still there, interview them and get their stories. And he did a lot of research into, the black origins and the black peoples and the African presence in the Bible. I used to go to his office and just reason with him hours. We did a big event with him, interfaith. It was Jesus and African was the name of the event. And that time I was the president of the Ethiopian Rastafari community at Howard University. We did a lot of big events. Big up Sadiq, he was the vice president during them time there too. You know, we did a whole heap of events at Howard under the Rastafari banner. But it's a very serious thing that the I is saying. But again, there's no end to reasoning in Mount Zion, only continuation. I can't take you away from the Queen for 3 hours because I know that I will cause problem. Tell the people where they can link with the I, what works that the I is doing currently. This is just part one. I'm going to bring Ras I-Yah V forward. We don't touch Roots Fest. We don't touch the Westmoreland Ganja and Hemp Growers Association. We don't touch Raga. We don't touch Woolly.
We don't touch UN.
Huh?
We don't touch UN.
We don't touch the UN and the work that the I has done in the UN. So people, again, if you have not subscribed, we have 24 of I and I online right now. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We are bringing the frontline warriors in the Rastafari movement. We're providing a platform for these conversations. And I tell people all the time, I'm on superpower is I'm on network, you know. I don't want to brag or boast, but my work on the battlefield has allowed Iman to build relationships with Rastafari, Pan-African family from all over the globe. And it's really an honor to have the Ras I-Yah V on the platform. So tell the people how they can get in touch with the I, and any final sounds that they want to share with the Lion Pride. We just hit 25 viewers, which is a good number for the Lion Talk Live. So tell the people them what you have to say about connection.
One, I'm on number in Jamdong here is 4049776. And I have an email, rasiv@gmail. But in terms of the works that I am involved with at the moment, and this has always been my work, is as it is now, since 2015, when there was an amendment to the so-called Dangerous Drug Act, that brought about for the first time in Jamaica the recognition of Rastafari rights as it relates to herb. Now, it granted Rastafari the right to what them call sacramental rights. But in the amendment, it stated that sacramental herb was not to be sold. Now, as Rastafari, there's no group, set of individuals who have been targeted by the state at any time for the use of herb, like Rastafari.
None.
And to know that the Jamaica government has established what is they call a Jamaica medical cannabis authority, a medical cannabis industry. But I sat on the board for 6 years, between 2015 to 2021. And there was a lot of confrontation between I and other board members, even though I was admired by also a lot, because they knew what I was talking about.
Just clarify which board for the ones who are not familiar. Just clarify which board I was a part of.
The Cannabis Licensing Authority, the current Cannabis
They're in
Licensing
charge
Authority,
of dispensing,
monitoring,
yes.
Monitoring and regulating the industry,
Yes.
And from the first day of the meeting, what I pointed out was, how is the board going to function to ensure and guarantee that those who have gone through the persecution, gotten the bottlenecks, gone to prison, is going to benefit out of this industry that they have suffered to keep alive. You know, and so I know the ins and outs of what has been taking place and what had taken place. Now, when you look at how the system is only one group of people who are in the position to benefit out of this so-called legalization and decriminalization program, and it's the rich people. Because financially, the traditional ganja growers, grassroots ganja growers, and Rastafari in general
can't meet the regulation.
cannot afford to participate in the industry as it is now. There came up this AD program, Alternative Development Program, which was to ensure and guarantee grassroots participation. But going forward to the Rastafari situation is that I and I are saying to the government, I and I will not be satisfied in able to grow herb and to smoke herb how we want, but at the same time, the millions and the billions of dollars made out of this industry is in the hands of some rich people who never suffer for herb. And as a matter of fact, some of who participated in the sufferation that certain people went through for herb.
And Rastafari has built the brand Jamaica Herb, the value in the brand of the cannabis in Jamaica. That brand was built on the back, on the blood of Rastafari, you know. So it's unconscionable to think that Jamaica would build a licensed cannabis program without benefiting economically those who built this brand. The reason why tourists come to Jamaica for herb is because of Rastafari. You know what I mean? So we have to participate, and we're working. I know Raga has been working on this issue, and I know the I has been active on this issue. Again, we're going to bring the I forward just to talk about the legalization of the herb and all of the work the I is doing, because Roots Fest, I attended. I was on a panel at Roots Fest, and the I graciously put Iman up, you know. Also gave Iman some samples, which trust Iman were very beautiful. You know, I got to taste them. So we'll talk about the I works on the part 2. This is part 1. If you love it, people, make sure you like, make sure you share. This is Ras I-Yah V, one of our great Nyahbinghi elders who has done a lot of work. Not perfect, you know, none of us are perfect, but the whole point of this platform is to highlight the works that are happening. I don't want nobody out there feel like Rastafari is not working, not active. I don't want anybody to feel like it's just mixed up in Rastafari, and every time we hit the press it's some kind of mix up or some kind of foolishness that's happening. You know, this is why it's so important for I and I to tell our own stories, because it's crucial. So final word, I-Yah V, and then we're gonna seal up at the 3-hour mark.
I just want to say to my brethren and my sister that, you know, I and I know, and in the word of His Majesty, I need His strength. So united, I and I stand together, divided, I and I will fall. And like I just said, there is none of I and I who is perfect. We all, you know, make mistakes in life, but at the same time, we have to analyze, look at each individual's work and contribution to the development of the movement, and look at the individual from that point of view. You know, sometimes people, you know, you agree with individuals 99 times, but the one time that there's a difference, you create enmity out of it, you know?
Yes,
and it shouldn't be that because that disagreement brings enmity when I have so much in common, you know, because Rastafari stand on a platform that anywhere the Rastaman is, he is who he is. I heal in Haile Selassie and looking at the liberation of the people, looking at the landlessness and looking at the environment. Yes, outside of those things, there might be minor differences. But are those differences, does those differences warrant the disunity and the divide amongst I and I? It shouldn't be. So that's what I would say to my people. Don't allow differences to create enmity amongst I and I's Ras Tafari, brethren and sisters. We all know what His Majesty stands for. We all know what is the duty and responsibility of I and I within the movement. So let us forget petty prejudice, put that one side, put petty differences one side, and look at the greater goal of the movement and act toward the achievement of those aims and objectives. Ras Tafari.
Haile Selassie the first. And we give thanks for everyone who tuned in live and for the hundreds more that will watch this as it's up on the channel. Just know that we love we're building a Rastafari platform. I was telling the elder before we went live, the goal of this platform is really to build a world-class Rastafari multimedia production studio, pushing Rastafari content from a Rastafari perspective. In this time, we can't depend on third parties to go, wait to tell our story and hope that they do a good job. We have to tell the stories that we value. And if you support, make sure you join in the Patreon, $5, $10, $25 a month. It's going to help us to upgrade, to travel, to go and get the stories. Everyone who watches this channel knows I've bought land in Ghana. We're in the process of building my family home in Ghana. We're gonna bring that to the item on this platform. So we're going to be telling that story of repatriation from a very intimate and that return from a very intimate perspective. We have some interviews lined up with our African family, our brothers and sisters on the continent. We're going to be talking about relationships. I have an interview with a sister. She said there's no single Rastafari man. We are the single brethren. Then we're going to touch all of these things as we seek to really build up our own media platform. So I just want to give thanks to everyone who tuned in live. Why? Because the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion's voice.
Rastafari.
My name is Ras Tariq, aka Baba Tariq Oduno, aka Baba Oduno. I want to thank Ras Gracie, the family, the Lion's Voice, and it is time appropriately for the Lions to tell our story, where our noble ancestors will be honored, and we know that we have not been a negligible factor in the history of our story in the world. Thank you very much. There is no culture without agriculture. And without agriculture, I don't even want to think about it. Peace.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice. Well, millions of Africans were stolen and taken